I'd like to thank our sponsors today, Pop McCann Whiskey, smoothest drink in the land. Grab your bottle today at popsmccannwhiskey.com. Also like to thank Friends of Martina White. Visit votemartina.com for more information about the work Martina has been doing as state representative of Pennsylvania. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Beyond Creative. If you're ready to take your online presence to the next level, visit beyondocreative.com or call 267-362-WEB1 to discuss your project. And our title sponsor, AR Law, arjusticenow.com. We fight so you don't have to. Adams Renzi Law. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Morrow Flooring, hardwood, laminate, vinyl, tile, and carpet. You get military and first responders discount. That is Morrow Flooring. You can go to goodcopbadcoppodcast.com, click on his link for more details. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Grayman Security, which is a boutique security company meeting all your security and consultation needs. You will talk directly to the president and owner, Scott Nistigo. He can be reached at 215-688-6069 or on his website, GraymanSRM.com.
Breathe. Put your hands down, stop scrolling, and the volume up. This is the Good Cop, Bad Cop podcast.
All right, welcome back. We have one of our favorite guests, quickly, Jerylyn Otter, Dr. Jerylyn Otter. Welcome back, Good Cop, Bad Cop podcast. Today we're going to discuss her books, her career, her documentary. Boom. Nailed that.
That was great.
Right?
Yeah, documentary's
Wasn't
on
even
point.
thinking about it. That's because I was reading it last time. It was screwing me up.
It's okay.
All right, so what do you want to get into first? Why don't we start about your childhood, which is,
Perfect. It was great.
overly dramatic, I guess, and
Yeah.
traumatic,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
All right, so start it off.
Oh my gosh, you're
We're jumping right
just
into
getting
it.
right in there. I'm gonna need a therapy session after this.
No, this is going to be a quick episode. We want to get into it.
We grew up partially in the same neighborhood. So I grew
Right.
up in Northeast Philadelphia. I went to St. Catherine of Siena, which was like Frankfurt and Grant. I moved up from Kensington when I was about 7.
Okay, so Kensington in Philadelphia, for the people that don't know, is really rough.
Great area.
And back in the 80s, it was still, it was kind of decent. It was starting to transfer over. It was always a very rough, hard, blue-collar area. A lot of rumbling, a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
A lot of burglaries.
Yeah, a
lot of crime, but it was a decent. Kensington Avenue was a shopping area. People actually went to it. It was nice. As time went on, in the mid '90s, the crack epidemic in the late '80s, it just devastated Kensington, and it just turned into what it is today. Just not a good spot.
No, yeah.
But it's okay. So you're 7 years old. You live up in the far Northeast.
I moved up in the far north. It's funny because when you live down, we call it the neighborhood. So when you live down in the neighborhood in areas like Kensington, I still have family that's in the area. They would call me this Northeast snob. You're such a prissy snob. You would think I moved from the slums to Buckingham Palace, but I moved into a duplex in Northeast Philly with my mom and dad.
My ex-wife was from down there, and same thing. We had a house. We're married, and they used to say, "Oh, you're a snob now. You got a house. You think you're better than all of us." It's like we're living in Holmesburg, bro. Like we're not. It's not. You know what I mean? Like
I know.
It's just so funny how someone would look at her like.
I know. So, my dad is born and raised in Kensington. He went to Edison High School before he dropped out. He lived at York and Masher. And my mom is from Germantown, but my mom's, very Italian, 100% Italian. My father is not. He was, Irish and German. Those two get together. And my dad was a criminal. I mean, for all intent and purposes, he was a criminal. So he was into, dealing drugs, everything from, dealing to distributing methamphetamine to Quaaludes back in the day. Cocaine.
Do you have any
marijuana.
Quaaludes laying around by any chance?
No.
It's on my bucket list. I want to do a Quaalude once in my life.
You got to make friends with a pharmacist. He was in the mix. He was in the mix of that criminogenic life, and my mom wasn't. Did you
make that word up?
Criminogenic? No, that's a word.
That's a real word?
That's a real word.
I'm calling bullshit.
I swear to God, look it up.
I'm going to look it up.
Look it up. And, so because of that and because what he was into, I was his only child at the time. He had another child that he didn't really raise or have part of her life. You get caught up in the mix when you're a kid because you're at the mercy of your parents. So my dad ends up getting busted in '84 when I was 4. And we were living in a nicer area.
Over here, right?
We were all the way up in Brookmont, actually.
When you're on the phone, are you doing this
All
constantly?
the whole time, yeah.
See, I took that out of I worked hard.
You're Italian. How can you take it out?
I worked very hard at trying to stop talking with my hands. I was embarrassed by it at one point.
Why? Don't be embarrassed. It's part of who
I know.
we are.
I'm embracing it.
Yeah, embrace it. I can't.
It's coming back.
When I do evaluations, people are probably like, "What's wrong with her?"
Yeah,
I just like talking with my hands. So anyway, Dad's involved in that lifestyle, and you get drug along, right? So, it was tough. My dad gets busted in '84. He was actually busted and turned in by his own brother-in-law. And brother were involved in getting him
crazy.
Busted. Yeah, because it was all over drugs and drug dealing. And my mom at that point is beside herself because she had been with my dad. She's a hairdresser, wasn't into drugs or really anything.
So your mom was straight edge in the 80s.
My mom was a straight edge. And then, she did her best, but she ends up hooking up with one of my dad's associates, if you will, younger. He was 10 years younger than her. And she's supposed to be taking care of me and his business while he's incarcerated. It didn't work out that way.
Were you the only child?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was my parents' only child at that point.
Right.
So I had no other siblings with me as a kid at this point. And it got rough. My mom was with this guy. He was abusive. And then my mom started to drink and Valium. And
were they ever abusive to you, or was it just kind of held to them?
He was.
Okay.
He was abusive to me. And I was just afraid because there was no housing stability. My mom lost the apartment after my dad went away. And I remember being with relatives. I remember living with my aunt and uncle a little bit in Kensington, right on D Street. And I was scared a lot because I missed my dad. My dad was kind of like my safety net.
He was in jail?
Yeah. And my mom was drinking. And that's when she started to use benzodiazepines, Valium, and things like that. So that kind of woke up a monster in her, if you will, right? Woke up her addiction. And Dad ends up getting out. He ended up getting out of jail because my aunt, who is my mom's sister, wrote a letter to the judge per my dad's request saying, hey, you got to let him out because her mom isn't doing well. She's not safe. She's not, he has a young daughter that's 4 years old. So I remember that day showing up in court with my aunt because what had happened was, I'll rewind, my dad gets word that I'm out on the streets not being taken care of by my mom. So my father calls my mother's sister and says, you have to get Jerylyn. It's not good. So my aunt finds me in Kensington somewhere, and she grips me up and takes me. And my mom thinks that she's allowed to go with her. And my aunt says, you can't come, Jeannie. You're not doing well. So I live with my aunt for a few months. And then she writes a letter to the judge and saying, hey, can you let her father, my dad's name's Geri too, can you let him out? And he gets out, and it was weird. I just remember being turned over to my dad. So I'm with my aunt, and it was a stable living environment. I was still scared, missed my parents. I always felt like I was a burden to people, because I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. I felt like cleaning up my sister's mess again. And then I go back with my dad, and he gets out of jail, and he starts to try to do life right. But when you have been a criminal your whole life and you don't have it, my dad didn't have an education. He dropped out in 9th grade because he had learning differences, learning disabilities. You're trying to figure out how to make ends meet. So we end up living in Port Richmond at this point at Tulip and Lehigh. So it's literally a stone's throw away from Kensington. Yeah. So we're right there. We're living in a boarding house, not an apartment. So it was a 2-room. So you had. Was it on Lehigh? It was on Lehigh. Yeah. It was a big corner property.
Big steps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And my grandmother, his mother, lived in one on the first floor. We lived on the second, and the bathroom was in the hallway. So you shared. Yeah. It wasn't an apartment. It was my mom.
Rooms. You had a room.
My mom cooked on a hot plate. We didn't have a stove, and so it was bad.
It's still like that down there.
Yeah, it was bad. It was it was roach infested. There was no privacy. My parents got back together, even though she was with this guy, Eddie, his name was, but my dad backstreeted on my mom all the time. So they end up trying to get back, and they did. And my dad opened up a convenience store in the basement called Little Jerry's. And we sold candy and ice cream and bread and milk and butter and eggs. And he tried his best. He was sober. He straightened up. And they saved and they scrapped, he had the store, and then he got into the masonry business, started doing brick pointing with a really good childhood friend of his called Billy Trey. And we saved enough to move to Northeast Philly. And things were okay, for a while. There was a lot of domestic violence in my house that a lot of neighbors didn't know about. When my mom would drink, my dad would beat her. And my dad was, to give you a picture, 6'3", about 300 pounds. My mom was probably about 5'4", 110, 115. Damn. So, and my mom would binge drink. So that was tough. So that was the most normal part, I think, was probably when I was about 7 to 12. We had the domestic violence.
Mom and dad got back together?
Got back together. Okay. Eddie was out of the picture. My dad, this is where I got, this came from the documentary Utter Nonsense. My father does the brick pointing business, but in the winter it's slow. So he had to make, and there was a recession, make extra money. My uncle says, get a job at the bar down the street from me at Kensington and Somerset. At the time it was called Dee Dee's Bar. And this was around 1992. So my father's working the 4 to close shift there. And he has these dreams of buying a bar. He wants to buy, well, how are you going to buy a bar when you're a hardened criminal? His rap sheet, I don't know how he does it, but he gets a liquor, he buys the bar finally.
Criminals are usually very...
Yeah. So I think my mom's name was actually, I think my mom was somehow on the paperwork because my mom didn't have a criminal record. Anyway, buys the bar and starts backstreeting on my mom again with this woman who is not a good person. They separate again. And who does my mom go back to? Eddie.
Yep.
And then, and then from there, it gets insidious and it gets worse. Eddie was in recovery. At this point, I'm still an only child. I remember my father pulling up to our house on Garvey Drive in Northeast Philly, taking his things out in trash bags to go be with this woman, Irene, in the bar. And literally, after my father pulls out, Eddie pulls up. So there was no... I've been there. I've left with trash bags. I've helped people move with trash bags. But there was no, as a kid, you're like, I just want to fucking break, man. Like, and this guy scared the shit out of me because of how he was when I was a kid. He was scary. My father and my uncle used to beat the shit out of him. He would show up all the time and scare me. I felt very unsafe around him, so she's back with him. And at this time, people don't believe this. My mom was drinking, but then she started to get into pills. So back then it was Vicodin and Percocet. So she starts getting into pills. She was so devastated and depressed that my father left again for another woman. And she's with Eddie. He's in recovery. Things were okay at first, but then he relapses too. They end up relapsing on pills. But she was oddly overprotective of me, even though she was like initially in her own world. So my mom would bring the party to my house. So I would hang out with kids from the river, like down on Linden Ave. And I would hang out with people from Morale Park. And the party ended up being at my house. My mom would literally take the keg. She'd be like, tell them to take the keg out of the woods and drink at my house. So I'm having all my friends partying at my house. And I never drank because I was scared to death to drink because my father always talked to me about addiction and alcohol and how it runs in the family and how I don't want it to ruin my life.
I would like to thank our sponsor, Pennsylvania State Rep Martina White. She's always been fighting and a voice for the voiceless, for your first responders and police officers. She's a friend and backer of the Blue. You can check her out at repwhite.com. You can see what she's up to. And if you're in the Philadelphia, Northeast Philadelphia area or Bucks County, you definitely want to check her out because she's your state rep. Again, you can check her out at repwhite.com. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Morrow Flooring and Carpets. If you're looking for a new floor or carpets, you can call 267-888-4644. Ask for the owner, Tommy Morrow. If you are a cop, fireman, first responder, or military vet, he will hook you up and give you a big, big discount. Tommy's one of our first guests on this show. He's a bona fide hero himself. Not only is he a Philadelphia police officer, but he owns an awesome flooring company. You can also check them out at morrowflooringllc.net. Like I said, if you're looking for flooring and you want a hero to do your carpet or flooring, give Tommy a call. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Pops McCann Whiskey, the smoothest drink in the land. You can go to popsmccannwhiskey.com, grab yourself a high-end bottle of whiskey or bourbon. He has all styles and flavors. Either you're a beginner or a hardcore whiskey enthusiast, check out Pops McCann Whiskey at popsmccannwhiskey.com. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Grayman Security. In a world where true crime stories like Ed Gaines remind us of the darkness out there, protecting yourself and your loved ones is more important than ever. That's where our sponsor, Grayman Security, comes in. Grayman Security is a boutique security company based in the Philadelphia area, offering expert consulting and personalized protection services tailored to your needs. Whether it's home security, event planning, or risk assessment, they got you covered with discreet professional solutions. Owned by Scott Nistico, a trusted name in the industry, Grayman Security prioritizes your safety without the flash. You ready to level up? Visit GraymanSRM.com or call Scott directly at 215-688-6069 today. Thanks to Grayman Security for supporting Good Cop, Bad Cop, because staying safe should not be a gamble.
So what that did for my mom is it gave her access to heroin. Because
in the Northeast?
Yeah, so let me tell you. So my house is the party house. She was into pills. She started talking to some of the kids that I was hanging out with, their older siblings that are in their 20s at this point. So she starts getting connects with them, the copper pills, copper this. And then lo and behold, heroin gets introduced because it's real expensive to keep up a pill habit.
Yeah, it's $5 for a bag of heroin.
Right. So she ends up transitioning from pills to dope, but she's getting high with people that are more my age or my friends. At this point, I'm a teenager, right? And anyway, it got bad. We got evicted. There was a lot of, physical abuse with her and Eddie. I had a little sister at that point. She had Eddie's child because Eddie didn't have any kids. And this poor kid is on her, like I couldn't take care of her at that point because I'm 14, 15. I went to Nazareth Academy High School, which played a big part, I think, in keeping me grounded and wanting me to be successful and getting away from that life. But anyway, what ends up happening is my sister ends up, for a period of time, being raised by my best friend's mom, which was great. And it was also I could go back to college. So this is happening during high school. My mom's addiction gets bad. By the time I'm prepping to go to college, my sister needs to be with someone. So my best friend's mom ends up taking her for a little bit. Eddie at that point is sober, but they're separated. My mom's in rehab. He's in a halfway house. Begs to see my sister for the weekend. She's about 5 at this point. I'm hesitant because I don't trust him. He takes her at 5 and never gives her back. I don't get her again until she's 10. So I worked with my mom.
How long is that?
5 years. So anyway, and this is all rooted in what addiction does to a family. It tears a family apart. So I work with my mom. My mom gets sober. Eddie gets sober. He had her, but he was very spiteful, very abusive. He ends up letting me start to see her. But then what ends up happening is my mom takes him to court for custody. At that point, he started to relapse, and he had something that's called trigeminal neuralgia. It's with one of the nerves in the face. He was in a lot of pain, so he started using
What's it called?
trigeminal neuralgia.
Never heard of it.
It's I don't know what cranial nerve it is. It might be the 13th cranial nerve, but whatever it is, it causes extreme pain. It feels like you're being electrocuted in your mouth, in your tongue. So
what?
Yeah. So he ends up. So my mom gets custody, but he stopped the fight. He would fight for my sister and take to hurt my mom. Yeah.
You feel like you're getting electrocuted?
Electrocuted.
Is that like a common thing? Because I never heard of it.
Well, trigeminal neuralgia is something that you can look up. But yeah, I mean, that's how you feel. So he's in excruciating pain, which ends up waking up his addiction again. So then he starts using. So my mom gets custody of my sister. I helped her. I paid the legal fees, and Eddie would let me see her. And 2 months after my mom gets her, she relapses. So then I said, I had enough of this. I'm like 24, 25 at this point. I'm in radio before I went back to be a doctor. And I said, I'm taking her. So I took her, and I went through what's called kinship foster care.
What are you doing in radio?
Sales. So I worked for like MMR. I worked for Wired 96.5.
What year is that?
I started in radio in 2003, and I stayed in for about...
Did you know Marta?
9 years. Marta, why does that sound familiar?
She was in sales for 93, right around that time.
For MMR?
Yeah.
I was an intern
Polish
at MMR.
girl?
Yeah, I don't know, probably, but I was an intern at MMR and I sold airtime for
Yeah,
Wired.
that's what she did.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a great. I think that's a great job when younger in life,
Yeah.
when you work for like a top 40 station, because I was in the nightclubs and you're having the time of your life. You're doing a bunch of different cool stuff. So I ended up taking my sister. And oddly enough, I didn't talk to my dad for many years because of what happened, how he left. And he was with a woman that was very abusive and nasty. And he didn't like that she had a daughter and had a relationship with a daughter. He ended up having 2 kids with her. And he finally leaves her when I'm out of college. I lived in Plymouth Meeting. So I moved out of college, moved into Plymouth Meeting. My mom gets my sister back. She relapses. My dad needs a place to stay. So I moved my father in and my sister.
How old are you?
24, 25. I'd like having a time of my life, right? So anyway, my dad, I felt like that was my dad's way of paying me back because we didn't talk. Even though he was such an influence on my life, he always talked about the importance of education, the importance of your family. Hello. And he wasn't religious, but he believed in something. He was more agnostic. So he helps me raise my sister while my mom was out there, still not doing well. And
So that's not his daughter.
That's not his daughter. That's nothing really. He was her kinship foster care dad, but it was my mom's daughter. And Eddie, his enemy's daughter.
Yeah.
But he felt bad for her, and I think he wanted to make good with me. So I moved my dad, and he helped me raise her. And then my husband and I formally adopted my sister by the time she was 14 or 15. So I adopted her. Now she's 30, and she's doing great. She works in the medical field. She's getting ready to have her first baby in June.
That's great.
It was a tough ride, but she's doing great. But anyway, there was just a lot of trauma.
So what made you turn to be a doctor? All this?
I had no fucking intention of ever being a doctor. My goal in life was just kind of like to survive, and I wanted to get my college education because my father said, Jerylyn, if you could, education's power, he said, especially as a woman, I never want you to have to live like me and your mom did, live paycheck to paycheck. I never want you to have to do anything illegal, and I never want you to have to depend on a man. And my father gave great advice. He just never took it. And I took his advice, and I put myself through school. I loved being in radio. But then I had one of those moments where I was like, radio is great and ad sales is great, but I want to make like a difference. I started therapy around 23 for myself. And I had a great psychologist. His name was Dr. Cohen. And I wasn't one to cry much or show my emotions much because I never felt safe doing that. But I would go to that man's office. I'd flick off like my heels. I'd sit like crisscross applesauce and I'd cry and talk to him. And I felt so much better having someone like him. And I remember I was sitting in therapy one day. I said, Dr. Cohen, his name's Dr. Howard Cohen. He has since passed, but he was the man. I said, I want to do what you do. He said, yes, you. He's like, you would be awesome at it. That's all I needed to hear, right? Because I got that encouragement, yeah. And I went back for my master's. I got my master's. And then after my master's, I started to think more from a business perspective. I wanted to make more money. And in the field of psychology, what affords you the opportunity to really increase your earnings is being able to do psychological testing and evaluation, and you need your doctorate to do that. So I went back to Chestnut Hill, and I pursued my doctorate.
So you're a real doctor.
I'm actually a real, psychologist.
Not a grifter.
Yeah, not a grifter. I did.
Yep,
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I have.
There's a lot of them around.
Yeah, so that's why I'm careful when I don't like to I like to be on shows and stuff and talk, but I'm careful with who I talk with. So I trust you. So obviously that's why I'm here. So went back, thought I'd be doing this, like come and sit on the couch and tell me your first world problems, right? And I'd be charging $200 an hour or whatever. But I was completely drawn to all the forensic-based settings. So going into the jails and I think it offered me like a sense of comfort because my family's a bunch of criminals. Yeah. And I kind of felt in a way that doing the work that I do now and helping people with severe mental illness and drug and alcohol addiction, it kind of makes me feel like I'm helping my parents in a way. My parents had to help themselves, but I feel comfortable in the space. I like and I appreciate those, like the struggles that people with severe mental illness and addiction go through. And even though it's frustrating and I was on the receiving end of a lot of the trauma that comes along with having parents that struggle with addiction and severe mental illness, I feel at home and I like the work.
How do you get to writing a book?
I was just going to write a memoir for myself because I wanted to, like around 40, I was like, I want to document this. So as I'm writing the book, I'm like, shit, like I should share my story because up until then, even people I worked with in radio and And very few people knew what was going on or how I grew up. I didn't talk about it a lot because I was
How
ashamed.
chaotic everything was.
Yep, didn't talk. Did
Yeah.
everything. Like I would show up, make sure my uniform was pressed. You know, God knows. I think at Nazareth Academy, I don't think my tuition was fully paid. So shout out to Sister Rosemary because I think she felt bad for me. But yeah. I
That's
kept that
surprising
tucked
they
in.
let you slide with that.
I don't know. I mean, or maybe I had an angel investor because I knew my parents weren't paying it. But I wrote it for myself. It was therapeutic. And then after I put it on paper, I said, you know what? I think this will help people. I think it'll help, especially family members. There's a lot of resources out there for people who struggle with addiction and severe mental illness. There's not a lot out there for family members. Like you get drug along for the ride and your mental health takes a toll on your mental health. So that's how the book started. And then I decided to publish it. So that's how Mainline in Philly came out. And then the second one, I just liked writing and I learned how to write. And then the second book was actually picked up by a publishing company.
That's for Aftershock?
Yeah, that's Aftershock.
And tell people how they can get to it.
Everything's on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's
Kindle,
on Kindle.
Apple.
Yep. Barnes & Noble. Anywhere where you can buy books, you can. And Aftershock I actually voice recorded too.
Oh,
so
really? Oh,
you
cool.
can listen to the audio for that.
Okay.
And,
all right. So then you have those 2 books and then you do the...
I did a podcast for a little bit, but like I told you before, I don't.
Yeah, so we met last year over the podcast space and talked.
Yeah, I don't like you do it really well. I don't know. I just.
It's debatable.
I think you do.
If I could talk correctly.
You talk fine. I mean, but I don't know. I'd rather be a guest than have it's a lot.
Yeah.
People don't think realize the work that goes into producing a really quality podcast.
That's why I got Bravery Studios, right, Martin?
I know. Plug for Bravery. It's a lot. So anyway, so that's how we met, and that's how the books came about. And then the documentary. So out of Mainline in Philly, Survival, Hope, and Resisting Drug Addiction, my brother-in-law read the book and goes, I want you to talk to these people who make documentaries. And then that's how, it wasn't a formal documentary on my life. It became more of an educational doc about addiction's impact on the family. And it follows the story of myself, my sister, and 2 other people. So you can find that on Apple TV and Prime Video too.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yep.
What was it like working on a film compared to the book and what you do every day?
It's like swimming with sharks, man. It's a whole nother industry and field that I knew nothing about. So I like doing all of the commentary and psychoeducation on crime, the intersection of crime and mental health. So I started to get more into the true crime space.
Contributor Nancy Grace now. Oh. You got two episodes down on her podcast.
Yeah.
Which is about Kata Scott, the woman who was missing recently in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Which they just found her body, which is terrible. It's sad.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more to this case than I
think
a simple abduction. I don't think it was just an abduction. I think there's a lot more behind the scenes happening.
There's going to be a lot more. I believe there's going to be other bodies found too. And I don't think, maybe you could say serial killer.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I believe it's more business-esque.
Okay.
The wrong business, but we'll say it's for another time.
Yeah, I feel bad for her and
her parents.
And the family.
Terrible, yeah. It's awful.
Yep.
It's awful stuff. And again, Philadelphia has an election coming. Vote for Judge Dugan against Larry Krasner. The suspect who murdered Kata Scott should have been in prison, but Larry Krasner, once again, didn't fight the bail that was set. He could have woke up another judge. No, he woke up. It was in the afternoon. Could have called another bail commissioner or another judge and had the bail increase and held him, and none of that happened. So
that broke my heart when I heard that. I think it was in January of this year. He was arrested for strangling and attacking another woman, and they had him, and it had something to do with, like to your point, and then I think they finally dropped the charges in May. So think about it, May, June, July, August, September, October, 5 months later. We now have a young, beautiful person with a future missing. If that was held
for trial, he'd still be in prison.
Exactly.
Awaiting trial and never had a chance to. I've seen it over and over again, but especially since this district attorney, Larry Krasner, there's 71 people dead because of him.
Wow.
Directly correlated. He's a serial killer by proxy. I mean, it's hard to defute that. There's 71 people dead because of Krasner and his failed policies. It's insane. Philly's a war zone. I just heard Chicago has like 1,600 people murdered. 1,648 people have been murdered up until today, which is October 20th.
Wow. This year?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
1,648 people murdered.
Wow.
It's insane.
Wow.
Right? You don't realize.
Well, I think from a psychology standpoint, specifically with the Kata Scott case, you're looking at escalations in behavior. and somebody that has a compulsion, a propensity to be violent against women, that he had some type of dealings with, and the first person that we know of got away by the grace of God, or he let her go, but because he wasn't checked, right? Because law enforcement, he wasn't detained, and we don't know what his mental health status is, but because there was no intervention,
Got away with it.
He got away with it, but then he also escalated. See, folks that have and display violent behaviors will continue to escalate. They will continue to raise the bar. The violence will become more significant. They'll do more because they're getting away with it and they can't control themselves.
Yeah, it's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrapping it up. You have anything to say?
No, thank you.
Tell people where to check you out, what to look into?
Well, you can always look at my website, www.drjerylynotter.com, Jerylyn with a G, and you can, check out my books, like Nick said, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and the documentary Utter Nonsense is
Amazon Prime, right?
Yep, Amazon Prime, and the documentary is on Prime Video and Apple TV. So thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
You heard her. Check out Dr. Jerylyn Otter.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, drjerylynotter.com.
Say your website one more time.
www.drjerylynotter.com, DRJerylynnUtter.com.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Please like, comment, share. It helps the podcast out. Love you guys. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by AR Law, PA State Rep Martina White, Biondo Creative, Morrow Flooring, Grayman Security, and Pops McCann Whiskey.